Welcome, White Sox fans, to another edition of White Sox Daily Live. Here are your hosts, Ian Eskridge and Danny Miller.
Well, thank you, Big Voice.
Yay.
How you guys doing tonight? My name is Ian Eskridge. Here tonight, I am joined by my associate podcaster, my director of streaming, and my coordinator of dudeness. How you doing, Danny? Good to see you.
I'm doing fantastic, man. It is a pleasure to see you this evening. Looking forward to getting into some, off-season White Sox news here. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it somewhere in the middle. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun tonight, man. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, there's of course the cloud hanging overhead after the White Sox let Jason Benetti walk out the door. We will get to that in just a moment. We also have...
Oh, please. I can't wait to get into that.
The 40-man conversation, which, I mean, it's not really much of a conversation, but, there's, of course, some things to talk about, but...
Now, front office has got to turn their homework in tomorrow.
Yeah, by 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. It sounds to me like you are coming through on your camera audio.
And that is the thing. For whatever reason, I cannot seem to get my microphone working. And I have a feeling and I just cut the lights off on myself too while we're at it. We're just having all kinds of technical difficulties here this evening. I apologize. I'm wondering, it's a possibility. I got that dog that's got a bad case of dementia, and she looks for places to hide. Unfortunately, right underneath my computer desk is one of those places she likes to go. And I just went through my cables, and everything looks good, and I cannot figure out for the life of me why I have no mic audio. So we go from getting compliments over text messages the last couple of weeks on how our sound quality is to Danny drops the ball again. Call me butt fumble, if you will, man. I've been butt
Mark
fumbling
Sanchez,
everywhere.
Huh?
Yeah, buddy. Dirty Sanchez, more like. But, hey.
Yeah. Well, it happens. Technical.
We're going to get through this thing, and I will get it figured out. And, I'm just going to have to lock my dog out of this room, which is nearly impossible.
Or just disconnect it and move it in between.
Yeah, I think that's going to have to be the issue here because, I love her, but she's old and, she's got some things going on. So we're going to figure this thing out, though. Don't you worry, man. I'm gonna get my audio back to right for next week's show. But in the meantime, yeah, you know what? I figure that I would get some crazy comments like that, especially from one of my best friends. So,
It works. For those of you listening on the podcast, it says you looked better with the lights off. So that's what we're dealing with tonight.
And Donuts 33 happens to be a very, very good and close friend of mine and friend of the show here.
Yeah.
Mr. Mark Orr has done some work with White Sox Daily in the past. So, I guess I'll take that from him. The rest of you clowns, hit me with your best shot. Let's go.
So the White Sox let Jason Benetti walk out the door and sign a multi-year dealer with division rivals, the Detroit Tigers.
Detroit.
Yeah.
This is a new one, and I quite enjoy it.
There are quite a few ways to look at this whole thing. And none of them are good for the White Sox. None of them. I mean, like the optics on every viewpoint that you could take on this are all bad. But I'm going to go ahead and hit you with a couple of things. So, as Jason Benetti has been working the last few years, you've seen him take more and more outside gigs, during the baseball season. Um, he's getting hired by NBC Sports to do, or Peacock, if you will, to do, Sunday morning games. He's doing NFL games for Fox. He's doing college basketball. He's doing college football. And every single time he shows up to one of these gigs, very well informed and very professional. And the White Sox, I've heard several different reasons for it. Whether it be that they don't like the fact that he's taking off more and more time to go and do other gigs. And then I've also heard that Jerry Reinsdorf doesn't find his broadcast to be entertaining. What are your thoughts on this? Are you are you in the you are entertained by Jason Benetti? No.
1000%. Absolutely no question that I find Jason's brand of broadcasting uh it's just a breath of fresh air, especially to me, in my opinion, on the South Side. And I know a lot of people are going to kind of poo-poo on me for this because, Hawk had such a huge following. Uh, but don't get me wrong, I didn't mind Hawk, but it was just more of the same with him over and over again. Nothing ever really changed except maybe looking for that new catchphrase, which I mean, the guy had like 4 billion of them by the time he was gone. And it got to the point where enough was enough. So yeah, he did make some slog games intolerable. But I mean, the
Tolerable.
thing is, or sorry, tolerable. Pardon me.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jason, not Hawk, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Uh,
certainly, because those 10-minute silences from Hawk during those tough games was, I mean, it was humorous at first, but I mean, as it went on from year to year, it kind of became.
well, and that was the thing. During a great game, Hawk would find a way to go on some tangent for 10 minutes about something with, I don't know, Carl Yastrzemski. Me and Yaz, like they were best friends. He had a story to tell during a great game where I would rather hear much more about what's going on in the field with the White Sox, but instead he's talking about Yaz. And then you get these bad games where now is the time to fill the dead air with something stupid to kill some time, and he'd sit there and do nothing. So I know that a lot, like I said, a lot of people are going to hate on me for saying this, but I got tired of him at the end. Jason came in. Jason kind of ushered in an era of smart baseball talk, kind of changing with the game. As we have talked about and we are fans of here at White Sox Daily Live, the game of baseball has changed and it's become more of a numbers game than it has ever been in the past. Jason was into that thing. He was into the stats. He liked the peripherals. He liked to get into, the science of things. But the biggest thing that Jason did for me was he made Steve Stone better. And I liked Steve Stone as a broadcaster already. A lot of people say, you need a good guy to pull things out of Steve Stone. Steve Stone was a student of the game, right? I mean, the guy played and pitched well for many, many moons, and he knows the game inside and out, and it's apparent that he does. Jason was able to draw the knowledge that Steve Stone possesses, and he was able to draw it out and make the broadcast that much better. So yeah, I'm of the opinion that this is a huge loss for the White Sox. And I'll even take this a step further, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there was a contingent of, White Sox Twitter, White Sox X people out there saying, after hearing everybody complain about Jason Go, saying this is the straw that broke the camel's back. This is why you're done with the White Sox. And hate me for saying this too, but I feel like that's a little bit of virtue signaling because it's not that Jason leaving was the straw that broke the camel's back. It's just the continual punching that White Sox fans are taking we feel like we're getting kicked in the face left and right here lately. So yeah, there's not a lot to be happy about. And when the one thing that many of us felt like we still had to hold on to was gone, it was worth many people out there, airing their grievances with that move. So, I don't know. I don't tell people how to fan. Don't tell me how to feel when we get rid of somebody that I thoroughly enjoyed. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
I'm right there with you. I mean, that's when you talk about Jason Benetti making Stone better. I don't know as if I necessarily say that he made him better per se, but he certainly brought out all the knowledge from Steve Stone. I don't think that. I think part of the problem with Hawk and Stone was that Hawk wasn't interested in a lot of the things that
right.
Steve Stone had to say, and going into strategy and things like that. I don't think that Hawk was like necessarily like really really that into it at that point. I think he was kind of just he wanted to do his thing. He's kind. I mean, I guess you could say Hawk was kind of like where Jerry is right now. He wanted to do things his way, and he didn't care what anybody else thought. It was he was going to do things his way, and that's it. That's it. You asked for Hawk Harrelson, you got Hawk Harrelson, and you weren't going to get any growth from him. You weren't going to get anything new from Hawk Harrelson. You were going to get catchphrases, and I mean, I loved Hawk for years and years and years, and listening to him on games, it certainly brings back some warm fuzzies. However, when it came to the growth of the game and just like my changing of the way that I look at the game, I still have, if I'm listening to Hawk, I don't have necessarily the same viewpoint, I guess, to a point. I mean, obviously, I've changed the way that I think about the game, and I think that made me appreciate Benetti more because he's talking about things that I've been thinking about, for the last 10 years or so, as opposed to, thinking about things that I thought were important in like 1995, you know? Um, and not that those numbers don't matter and, like things that he talks about don't matter. But it's just, like you said, more of the same, you know? Um, so there's I don't know if you've been paying attention to Twitter, but Beefloaf has had some very spirited Twitter conversations about Jason Benetti leaving and people arguing one way or the other. And one of the things that he said that I agree with is that he had another year on the deal and he decided that he was going to they allowed him to go out and sign a multi-year deal with the Tigers, and their deal with him allows him the ability to go out and do less baseball games and do more national things as part, as terms of his contract. And I think that is obviously a big deal for him. One thing that got me thinking about was these kind of like I mean, I don't want to say it like this, but I'll say it like this anyway. These scab games that we have in the booth over the last couple of years where you've got Gordon in there, or sometimes you don't have either Stone or Benetti in the booth because Stone's staying home or he's on vacation or whatever because he's taking time off to do whatever it is that he likes to do or taking
Yeah,
time
he
to
was doing less and
regenerate.
less road games for sure.
Yeah, so I can see it from the White Sox point of view in this side that the more games that Benetti misses and the more games that Steve Stone miss, when those don't align properly and you've got both of them out of the booth for, I don't know, like a week or something, that makes for a lot of bad play-by-play and color commentary from your team when you've got two guys that aren't used to working together. I mean, like Connor McKnight does fine. Um, he's not that like who I'd like to have every single game. Uh,
No.
unless that was like his gig and he did it all the time and he got kind of more comfortable and was allowed to, given like a little bit of leeway to kind of bring
I
some
mean, at
life into
least
things. But
he's a little bit of he's a professional, I'll give him that. But yeah, you're right. I think there was a level of being uncomfortable and not having, done this over and over day in and day out. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
yeah, it's just like you keep on moving all these pieces around. And when you're trying to come up with a consistent product for your viewers, it hurts when your guy is not there, and it certainly hurts when both of the guys are not there. It's like it's not even like Steve Stone is working with a random dude, because sometimes Steve Stone's not even there, and you've got like Gordon Beckham and some rando, just like
Yeah,
guys that you're like, okay, and they
have
just
there's been a handful of times in the 2023 season where I'm like, I don't even know who this cat is, where he comes from, what he
100%.
does, what his background is. Is he even a Chicago guy? Does he know anything about the White Sox? And there were times where I felt like, man, whoever this is doesn't know anything about the White Sox. We heard a couple of guys, and I wish I could remember the guy's name now. We heard one guy, I mean, he was getting the names wrong on our side half the game. And I'm like, come on, we have to do better, especially when the product on the field is so bad. Give me a broadcast team that's at least entertaining to kind of make up and fill that void when you're watching some really horrendous baseball.
Yeah, and that's another thing. It's like I was worried that Benetti at some point was just going to go. You know what? This franchise is such a train wreck. I don't want to have anything to do with it anymore, and that might have played a part in his decision, regardless of what's going on with his contract negotiations and them not wanting to talk to his
To be
agent.
honest with you, how do we know that's not exactly what happened? Honestly,
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, maybe it was leaked to him that Jerry Reinsdorf was not a fan of Jason's brand of humor, that he didn't find him funny like all the reports out there are saying. And if I'm Jason Benetti and I catch wind of that, I'm going, you know what? My star is rising. I'm involved on national broadcasts in, you know, 47 other sports. I don't need you.
Yep.
The whole world knows who I am now. Anybody who watches sports anywhere knows who I am now. I'm Jason Benetti. Yeah, I'm the guy who has a disability and wears it on his sleeve like no other, and goes out there and does his job day in and day out and is loved
and is
by a
and is
lot of
very
folks
good
and is
at it.
extremely talented. Extremely talented. So what do I need the White Sox for if the White Sox don't want me? And we don't know. I mean, these are all just speculations that Jerry wasn't like, nobody knows for sure if Jerry Brinsdorf came out and said, you know what, I'm just not a fan of Jason. Those whispers may have come from somebody credible, but we don't know for sure what happened behind closed doors. We never will. But
Yeah,
it's very possible that he just said, you know what, I'm done. Why should I stay here? And the kicker is not only are you leaving here, but you're going to a division rival in a smaller market, knowing that your star is rising. He must know something else. You know what I mean? Or maybe he's just
I,
had it.
yeah. I mean, who knows? And I've thought, and the thing is, like Len Casper, like I think he's okay. Like he's not. I don't have like any emotional attachment to Len Casper, really. I mean, like as far as like I look at it, Cubs guy came over, doing the White Sox now, and he's good at his job. Don't get me wrong, but I don't have like that, like that any emotional attachment to him per se.
Right.
But I've thought the same thing about him. It's like he's like I don't want the TV job because he wants to do radio, presumably. I know he's said that he wants to do radio, and that's why he took this gig. But like when he came over here, he came over to what was supposed to be a promising team, and they've just gone down the tubes. And like I've thought, how long until he's gone, until he gets another radio gig where somebody, appreciates what he does, you know? I mean, not
Well,
that
Glenn must really enjoy his job because in his place in the organization or in the broadcast world of the White Sox, because anybody gets paired up with DJ these days is you know like Jason. You've got to pull some things out. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to pull out of that out of that hat. You're not pulling a rabbit out of that hat. Sometimes you might be pulling a water buffalo out of there. So when you getting in it with the DJ.
yeah, I mean, so there are like just so many different ways that you can look at it, and I think that no matter what, it just boils down to this is just another reason or another way that the White Sox are taking fun away from White Sox fans.
Yeah,
That's at least how I
I've seen
feel.
many of posts and tweets that basically said like the White Sox. I mean, again, I hate to do this, but to go back to Jerry Reinsdorf's comments and saying that he needed to hire Chris Getz so that we didn't have this transition and evaluation stage. Which Chris Getz immediately comes out and says just a few days after that the first thing he needs to do is go through everything and evaluate everything. But Jerry says he needs to do this for the fans. And the only thing that he's shown since he said that is he's going to do everything that he can to piss off the fans.
Yeah, there's
So,
been, I will say this, at least the one thing that this whole, of all this, just everything that's been going on with the White Sox in the last couple of months, the one thing that it has done, it has united White Sox Twitter in their dislike for Jerry Reinsdorf, for the most part. Like, there's nobody that's really defending him anymore. Everybody's kind of just like they're over it. They're ready to move on to greener pastures. People are talking about shopping their baseball fandom to other teams until he's gone. And I can't say that I necessarily blame him. I mean, he's pretty much made everything about this franchise miserable.
yeah. I've seen I've seen the dollar bill words comparisons fly around like, nobody's business here lately. And the comparison is a good one. Because it basically is, as somebody like myself who's a long time, lifelong hockey fan, pretty much. I started following hockey, before I hit double digits in age. You know what I mean? And to go through those last few years in the early 2000s of the dollar bill era was kind of brutal as a hockey fan. Um, the one thing that Jerry hasn't done is, and he won't ever do because, then he'll be taking money out of his own pocket. The one thing that he hasn't done that Dollar Bill did was stop airing home games. Uh, we as White Sox fans, the one thing that we have to be lucky about is Jerry owns a stake in the broadcasting company which airs uh, the White Sox games. So luckily for us, we will not have to endure that kind of stupidity. But the comparison remains nonetheless. I mean, these last couple of years are just brutal, and there's no sign of any change, or is there? Because as we talk about things like White Sox fans selling off their fandom, we might be here to tell you not to jump off that bridge just yet. And I'm not going to get too deep into that right now, but I'm just going to say, hang tight. There are, we've gotten some whispers of some things happening in the background that there are some changes being made to the way the White Sox organization does things that sound like positives right now.
Yeah. See,
What do
like
you think?
well, here's
And I'll let you, I don't want to expound on that because, this is something I figured I would let you kind of jump into, and maybe we're not even ready to get into that portion of the show yet, or if at all.
well, I mean, I can, yeah, I guess we can get into that a little bit later. I mean, I don't think it like a lot of it's super, under the
Sensitive.
radar stuff. Yeah, because I know that some of it was brought up on a podcast by a White Sox pitcher in an interview, and it's now common knowledge because of that interview, at least over at another site. So I'm not going to feel bad talking about it since it's already on another site for in an interview over there. But yeah, there's just so much stuff, and like we've talked about the AJ Pierzynski Hawk Harrelson interview where Hawk Harrelson basically said that Brooks Boyer's the devil, and
he's showing it too.
He made a statement on the on Benetti leaving, and it's just I to me it's just not. He said what he said was like the corporate speak, way to put something into words, that you would have from a corporation.
He basically tried to make it sound like he was letting Jason explore opportunities to grow.
Yes.
When in fact it didn't feel that way.
It certainly does
And
not.
there are whispers of, reasons to think that it did not go that way.
Yeah.
More than whispers.
It's kind of one of those things that like I would if it's not going to happen, but like if I was to have a conversation with Benetti, like I would certainly want to have some of those details if I had my way, just to know what's going on. But I mean, like every single thing we've seen from the chairman's office in the last 2 years has been pretty much mishandled, and is tone deaf to the fan base, and doesn't seem like he actually cares about the fan experience, what the fans want, how the fans feel about certain things. He does not care. And
no, and I think a lot of that does come from Brooks Boyer.
Well, I mean,
it's not just Cherry. I think Brooks Boyer is the architect of a lot of these things. As far as from a fan's perspective, we look at, I don't want to get into it. I've already talked about it. I'm not going to get into it, but things like the way the tailgating has changed, concessions not being quite right, the way they advertise this team, and the way that they speak through their teeth as if fans are stupid. I think a lot of that is orchestrated by Brooks Boyer.
I don't know. There is certainly a lot of discourse from the fan base, and I don't think as long as Jerry's around and as long as Brooks Boyer's kept around, that pretty much that I don't expect any of it to change.
Here it is.
Yeah,
sell.
drop that on there.
Sell.
Which I absolutely have to make into a T-shirt because I'm fairly certain that a lot of people would enjoy that shirt. I just haven't gotten around to it. I guess I'll have to get on that and sort that out and get that thing out there.
There's some White Sox Daily merch going.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even care about the White Sox Daily part of it. I just think it'd be funny to see people, an army of people showing up wearing it at the stadium. It would be really funny. So, as an aside, because you brought them up, that Connor Bedard kid, he's okay.
Yeah, he's not bad. It's all right.
Yeah. I mean, the 2 goals that he had the other night.
We were on hat trick watch, man.
I mean, it's just phenomenal. I'm very, very happy that he is in Chicago playing for the Blackhawks. He is a lot of fun to watch.
Agreed. And the Blackhawks, as bad as they were last season, were still they still had some moments, and they still had enough fight in them that they were entertaining. And now this kid is really going to make hockey that much more watchable here in Chicago again, especially, after the last era of just big names across the board and on every line. To see him be play is, I watched him play in juniors, so you know I watched every highlight reel before he was announced as the Blackhawks first pick overall. Um, but to see him in a Hawks uniform doing the things that he's doing this early in his career just gives me the excitement to know that he is going to be here for years to come, and he's going to give me a reason to turn on that game every night.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah. A joy to watch play hockey.
And we can only hope that Luis Robert can do the same thing for the White Sox here, because it's looking like he might be the only one left. Any day now.
Yeah. Well, on that, because I don't want to have like I don't want to have a marathon stream tonight. I'm just gonna go ahead
No,
and start this conversation on the 40 man here. And
let's do that.
have you looked at the White Sox 40 man roster in a while? Have you
No,
like okay?
no. You know why? Because I know they weren't anywhere close to 40 for the longest time. Last I looked, I think they were at like 30. Not even. I don't even know if they were at 30 last time I looked at it.
I mean, it's I haven't looked either. Let's go ahead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 24. All right, so there are 35 on the 40 man right now.
Okay.
And I'm gonna just go through and so there are the notable guys that are up for covering in the Rule 5 draft: Jake Eater, Matthew Thompson, Christian Mena, Wilfred Veras, and a couple other guys. Addison Coffey's there, and I think there's one other guy. I think maybe Fraser Ellard, possibly. I can't remember. I haven't looked at it since earlier today. But I'm just gonna go ahead and start rattling off names here.
All right.
Edgar Navarro is on the 40 man. Nicholas Padilla. Johan Ramirez.
Okay.
Alex Spies.
No kidding.
Who, I know who these guys are,
Right.
but
Why?
am I worried about any of these guys being poached by anybody else if we happen to not have them on the 40 man?
That's a big no.
I mean, not that we need the spots per se at this point, because, I mean, even if you wanted to put all 4 of those guys that I mentioned, all 5 of those guys on there that I mentioned, if you wanted to put all 5 of those guys on the 40 man because you were worried about somebody snatching up an Addison Coffey after putting up a 29 ERA in the Arizona Fall League. I mean, granted, I'm not saying that Addison Coffey is not a good player, because I do like Addison Coffey's stuff. I think he has a future. I just think that he's not ready yet. Okay. And the Arizona Fall League, it being the longest season he's ever played in, that played a big role in him having some issues. However,
Dead arm.
yeah, I mean, just being tired, I mean, he's had a long year, and is what it is, like he'll sort himself out, I think, next year. I don't see him being a problem. I was just, kind of tossing it out
No,
there.
and that's not to say that any of the names you mentioned don't have a certain level of talent that can be exploited or expanded upon. But anywho, continue.
Yeah, and I'll continue on into the other areas here. And I'm only really going to bring up Gavin Sheets and Adam Hazley. Another two guys. We traded McKinley Moore for Adam Hazley. McKinley Moore actually did did pitch for the Phillies last year. Had a rough time when he got brought up, but I mean he's also fairly young. But Adam Hazley had a little bit of time as well, but he also didn't do all that hot in Charlotte, which is whatever. But
as a hitter in Charlotte, if you can't do it there, you can't do it anywhere.
That's pretty much where I'm at because you look at the park factor that adjusts offensive numbers at that place is that anybody that puts up numbers there, like it automatically has to be, more or less curtailed by about 15-20% because everybody knows that the offensive numbers that get put up at that place are just absurd. And I mean, likewise on the other side for pitching, same thing, is that some guy has a 10 ERA when he's pitching at, in Charlotte, but then he goes anywhere else in the International League and he's got like a 2, So,
we talked about Alex Mateo's splits the other night off camera.
Yeah.
And his splits, his home and away splits were something like he was like a 29 at home I think it was like a 9.
It was a 10 and like a 2.
And a 2
yeah.
on the road. So really tough to kind of gauge anything when you're playing in that ballpark. And I've said it before, as a hitter, I use the comparison of and I don't know if you did this as a kid, but I did. Was I used to go out into the park and hit golf balls with an aluminum baseball bat. And that's they go a long way, brother.
I mean, it's kind of comparable almost. Like you watch like these more or less they look like pop-ups. And they'll land in the first row of the bleachers in Charlotte. And it's like the guys are just like slowly going back on it and slowly going back on it, and then all of a sudden they go dunk right into the wall, and then it drops into the first row, and that was the whole thing about Blake Rutherford, is that like
ball scrapers.
I did post about him having like absurd numbers for the Nats farm team and then getting called up, and people are like, oh, the White Sox can't develop talent, and of course he goes out and hits like 140 or something like that for the Nats in the majors. So it's, whatever. But if you can't run into 20 home runs in a full season playing every single day in Charlotte, unless you are a Yolbert Sanchez type contact hitter with a superb glove, you got no business. Sorry. It's just It is what it is, Like if you're hitting 13 home runs in 450 plate appearances in Charlotte, power's not part of your game. And you better have something else to fall back on, because if you're only hitting that there, you're not doing anything close to that in the bigs, And that's even guaranteed rate. Like their park factor is pretty high as well. Like I think they had like a higher park factor than Denver, in Colorado.
It did. The new scoreboard seems to have changed it slightly. Going back, that's got to be 5 or 6 years now since they added that, or even longer maybe now. But it seems to have changed things slightly, but nothing crazy.
Yeah,
it's always been a hitter friendly ballpark.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So.
But the question is that when you look at most of those power numbers that are coming up for the park factor, it always seems to be from the other team.
The last couple of seasons
anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like as far as I'm concerned, the 40-man roster, there's no hard decisions here. I mean, like literally the only reason to not put a guy on the 40-man, if you want to at this point in time, is because you don't think that there's any reason to try and protect him. I mean, that's literally it, because there are guys that can be removed from the 40-man that are not going to make anybody blink, and are certainly guys that you're probably, okay, so if somebody, 5 guys in the bullpen get injured, maybe you see a couple of those guys. But otherwise, I mean, this is probably like 2018, 2017 levels of 40-man roster bad as far as the White Sox go. It's just man.
That guy. I need that guy right there to do something this season.
I'm hoping that for those of you that are not watching stream, that was Yohan's face bopping around in our window here. Yeah, man. It would be really nice to see him do some stuff, and with those comments from Getz the other day about him playing the outfield, him playing first base, him playing second base. Read into that what you will, whether or not it's they're kind of trying to light a fire under him, or just saying don't expect us to have a whole lot of talent on the roster this year. I mean, you can take it a bunch of different ways, but yeah, he does need to step up and do some things this year, I think.
Well, the only reason I didn't even see that is they must feel like they've got a third baseman that's come in and do some things defensively. Just going off, what their intended direction is this year, becoming, better on the defensive side of the ball. So, if you've got a decent defender at third base who might be able to hit a little bit, that's the only reason I can see moving Yohan. Because Yohan's bat hasn't been Yohan's bat in a long time. So, are we trying to move him out into right field?
Because trying to move him to first base?
Because we're trying to get more per. Oh, well, there you go. But you're trying to get more offensive numbers out of that particular position.
Well, when Yohan is having a subpar season by everybody's standards, and he's still keeping pace with Andrew Vaughn, I mean, it's just food for thought, I guess.
Beef would not argue.
Yeah, I mean, the stats don't argue.
No, they don't.
Unfortunately, yeah. So tomorrow we find out with the 40-man, and then we start talking about what to expect here.
Yeah, here's your opening day, 2024, Charlotte White Sox. Be ready.
Yeah. Do you have anything else for this week? Because I'm pretty tapped out here. I don't think there's really too much else to talk about until we actually get some news on what's going on with the roster here.
No, I just wanted to, like I said, we heard some good things last week that you said has been now somewhere else. I did not catch that. I thought that we were privy to some new unheard information, and apparently I've gotten that wrong. But
no, there are definitely some things coming. I mean, there's some stuff going on in the minors. There's going to be some reworking of the pitching coordinator roles, and they're going to be another couple of pitching coaches and hitting coaches and manager somewhere in the system.
Yeah. The big thing that I took away from what we had heard, talked about, discussed offline that most folks haven't heard was that it sounds like there are going to be some numbers added to the staff. I don't really want to go any further on that until more comes out, but it just sounds like where the White Sox were lacking in some areas when it came to bodies being in roles that could assist, some of these guys that we've talked about in the last couple of years wearing more than one hat at their position and maybe being a little overwhelmed and overstretched in their jobs. It sounds like there's a little help on the way for that kind of thing. But like I said, we'll get into that more when the news comes out. But I think there are some bright spots to look forward to as a White Sox fan. That's what the only reason I brought up the fact that don't jump off that bridge just yet. It sounds like there is a direction that might, we probably won't see the result of that right off the bat, but there is a direction that sounds like it's a better direction than what we've seen over the last couple of years.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some positive things coming, and I don't, I don't want to burn anybody, on things that are happening, but there are things happening, and they are adding some staff. How much exactly, we'll find out as time progresses here, but there are definitely some good things on the way. So
yeah, that's really all I wanted to get at. If you're listening, whether it be live us tonight on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook Live, or if you're listening to the podcast after we drop that tomorrow morning, just know that as dismal as things seem now, obviously when things get to a certain point of bad, there's really nowhere to go but up. Unfortunately, the Sox are so bad right now that it might take a while to see the progression upwards, but there are some things happening in the background. That's really all I want to get at.
yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, I will say, like I said, I'm sure that they'll probably announce those things within the next week or two here, and or maybe they won't. They are the White Sox, and they like to not tell anybody about anything. And I'm gonna have to create some sort of tweet to bring all that information out because they don't decide to make their own thing about it. But
or they could just completely waffle on that idea and say, you know what, nah, we're not going to go in that direction. But we shall see.
no,
I don't see how they can at this point.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've been told is that these people are already in place and they've already been doing their thing. It's just it hasn't been announced yet. So,
okay,
again, another one of those things that's just aggravating from a White Sox fan side of things. Where you never have any idea what the heck's going on with the team because they don't tell you. And they don't think you need to know. So. And I guess in the grand scheme of things, do we really need to know? I guess not. It's not crucial to my life, but it would be nice to know that they're putting one foot in front of the other and trying to progress things, as a franchise organization.
I know some White Sox ticket agents that would love the White Sox to come out with some positive news.
Yeah, those guys right now, they are getting killed. I don't know, I would be curious to find out what season tickets sales look like right now and what the numbers are in comparison to even say 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Like I'm not even talking at the height of things, just
right.
It's got to be way worse.
Judging by some of the White Sox Twitter posts I've seen, where I've seen quite a few people start a tweet or post out by saying, as a former season ticket holder of the White Sox. So a lot of folks have come out and said, yeah, I'm not buying season tickets this year, but they have said as a former White Sox season ticket holder. And that has been quite a few posts that I've seen start out that way. I have to imagine that those numbers are down at epic proportions.
Yeah, and like like you said earlier, I'm not going to tell anybody how to fan.
Me neither.
You want to stop giving them your money? By all means, I totally get it. You think
and if you want to go to the stadium and spend your money there, do that as well.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I just enjoy going to the park, but I mean, does that mean that I agree with the way that they've been doing things? Absolutely not. But
no. But I'm not going to say that I'm not going to any games next year, because I'll be the first one to tell you as soon as my buddy calls me and says, we're doing our annual opening day thing. I'm going to tell him I'm in.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, I don't know how it is for you, but I'm passionate about the game, and opening day has always it's just been a long-standing tradition between me and friends. And I miss, by the time spring rolls around, we've gone to those long Chicago winters. Getting out there just to smell the smells at the ballpark. The grilled onions and the hot dogs and the sausages and the Cubano sandwiches being just sizzling away over there and all those flat tops out there. That to me, it's just something. Even if it doesn't signal a White Sox winning season, it signals the beginning of better weather and summer on being on its way. And I'm here for it, man. So
Yeah.
I'll probably make it out to a few games. I don't know if I'll make it out to as many as possible or as many as I have in the past, but I'll be there.
Yeah, I will be out there as well. Unfortunately, to probably see a a club that is in the middle of retooling, because I do not expect any kind of competitive team from them next year. But who knows?
Well, let's
Maybe
take 30
addition by
seconds.
subtraction.
Let's take 30 seconds to talk about that word retooling, because now Bob Nightingale, with his bat phone to Jerry's office, has leaked that the White Sox are ready to rebuild. Just in the last few days. We've been told all this time for the last month and a half months that we are not rebuilding. We are not rebuilding, not rebuilding. And now Bob Nightingale says the White Sox front office has warmed up to the idea of rebuilding, which is why all of a sudden they're listening to offers on any of their players
except for
aside from Luis Strauss.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what we said was going to happen anyway.
We all knew it. So again, more garbage speak from the talking heads, but we saw it. And I said it over and over again. You can call it what you want, but every single move that they had made over the last 2 months signaled rebuild.
Yep.
It's already in the process. I don't care what you say. It's already been started. So, anywho, like I said, just want to take a couple seconds. I don't want to go on and on about it.
A friend of mine has a band, and the name of the band really reminds me of how I feel about the White Sox right now, and the name of the band is Joy Thieves. And
oh goodness gracious,
that's pretty much where I'm at right now.
It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I mean they just you're into industrial, like industrial music. That's your cup of tea possibly. So go ahead and give them a listen. But yeah, so until next week, hopefully we find out something interesting. Hopefully they announce these coaching changes, and we see some movement here and some things to be positive about, because right now they're certainly not giving us a whole lot to be happy about and be positive about. So we'll see. All right, well, at Daily White Sox on Twitter. My name is Ian Eskridge. You can find me at iEskridge on the X/Twitter. My director of stream podcast activities and
that would be associate to the associate
of dugout coordinators, Danny Miller at Danny Miller WSD. You can find all of our written material and podcasts at whitesoxdaily.substack.com. And we have a YouTube page where you can find this stream. You can also find our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And we just thank you for listening, watching, coming, hanging out. And you guys have a great week, and we will catch you next week. Hopefully there's some good things to talk about. You guys have a great night, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks.